Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our State of the College address. While I work to get my share going here. Hopefully this works. So a few quick announcements before we get rolling. First, I'll just say there is far more content to talk about our college and what's been going on and all the great things happening than I have time for. So I will just apologize up front to exciting things that are happening that I don't get a chance to mention today. The other thing I'll mention is I want to thank everyone who sent questions in advance, trying to answer as many of them in the flow of the presentation as possible. But we're going to take any questions I didn't answer during the presentation and also any questions that come in during the presentation and send out a college-wide Q&A follow-up with some of the answers. So if your question doesn't get answered between now and the next hour, don't fret, we're not ignoring you, we do hear you, and we will get responses out. And then before I launch in, I just want to say thank you to Andrew and Kate and Ashley for a fantastic job in helping put this whole presentation together. All the people who have contributed, Jennifer and many others, and to Bree and Nikki and the tech team, Don and Vicky, for helping make all of this work seamlessly for us. So thank you all. This is our 125th year, as you know, and so I thought it was a good time to talk about the state of engineering at Penn State. Before I get into talking about where we are in our future as a college, I do want to address just quickly the current state of affairs regarding the vaccine mandate and work modes. And there's a lot of questions around this. It's not going to be the central theme of the rest of the presentation, but I want to just cover it because I know everyone's wondering, and for good reason. So more information about the vaccine mandate will be coming. But just to be clear, the college will not be given any role in the exemption or accommodation processes or decisions. That will be managed by the university because the university is responding to a federal mandate. If you are not vaccinated, I encourage you to do so as soon as possible. You don't need to wait for more details on the guidance. We know that there is a mandate campus-wide. And then as of last night, for 6 other campuses as well. A lot of people are asking if once the vaccine mandate is in place, does that impact our current work arrangements? The answer is no. These are completely separate topics, and we don't see, we're not anticipating any changes to the current work arrangements and beyond this semester, because remember the work arrangements were agreed upon for this semester. I don't have anything official yet, so the next few things I say are what I anticipate. But I anticipate that spring semester will look very much like fall 21 in terms of the unit authority for work arrangements. So I've encouraged department heads to start having the conversations with staff in terms of staying the course or making some changes. But we expect the approval process at being at the college level to remain the same. There is a university-wide task force talking and looking at what work arrangements might be like after COVID. We anticipate that there will be more flexibility than there was pre-COVID in terms of on-site, hybrid, and remote work. There may be some types of jobs that simply can't be done remotely, but I don't think there's a huge number of those, particularly in the college. And we're anticipating, but it's not firm yet, that a lot of the decision-making will again be at the college level, but it's not certain yet also. So sit tight. And we are expecting official guidelines from the university for long-term, probably in a few months. All right, so let's talk about engineering and the college. And I've been saying for years publicly that all of the world's major challenges that we see today have an engineering solution. But at the same time, we know that engineering can't solve our world's problems on our own. And this, in some ways, to me, encapsulates our mission as a large college of engineering in a large land-grant university. And so we put ourselves really in the center of working to address societal challenges and then internally taking a leadership role because we're the largest college, because we have the most students, the most most faculty, most research dollars, but also the most ability to address societal challenges, that it's our responsibility to reach out to other disciplines and departments and colleges across the campus and work together to literally help save the world. And that's how I view our overarching mission in engineering. So we focus, as you know, on impact. I will move myself over the line. Our mission is on impact, right? And if you look at how we describe ourselves in our strategic plan, we talk about being a world leader in teaching, learning, research, and service. We are driven to have a culture of equity and inclusion. We look to drive educational programs that prepare students for lifelong learning and impactful careers in whatever direction they want to go. Some stay in engineering, some go in other directions. We know that we need to be innovative and give supportive experiences that are designed to have this impact and have a more welcoming community, and that we need to invest resources, infrastructure, to create collaborative pathways that enable all of our faculty to really thrive in our environment. Right? We have a strategic plan, and our strategic plan is really based on a capstone of having impact, building on cornerstones of excellence, equity, social mobility, and sustainability. And these cornerstones are the things that we look to when we look at what outcomes are we seeking in terms of everything that we do, right, that fills out the full picture of everybody's activities. Right, so in excellence, I think cornerstones need to be not just stated, but defined. And, excellence really includes innovation. It includes taking on new challenges. It includes being a leader in every aspect of our work, whether it's education or research or service or community support. Equity is to actively lead the creation of a more inclusive and equitable culture in our college, and to intentionally impact the engineering discipline around the world. Equity is more than inclusion. It's more than equality. It's more than diversity, right? It's looking at how we enable anyone, no matter where they are, what their starting point is when they join our community, to have every possible chance to succeed and thrive in what they want to do. Social mobility is very much at the heart of the land-grant mission, right? So we are looking to ensure that engineering education is accessible to those who are qualified, no matter what their socioeconomic background and starting point is, and ensure that the education encompasses both the technical skills they need as engineers, but also leadership, teamwork, communications, equity, and professional ethics. And sustainability, last but not least, is to make sure that everything we do has a lasting impact. And sustainability in this context is not just about mitigating climate change and making sure the planet remains habitable for humans, but really also in every area, everything that we do, we're not looking for short-term fixes. We are looking for sustainable impact in our work. So at our core, we are our people. And I will say that we have a lot of people in our college family. We are now, this is a snapshot of right now. So this is post-census for fall of 21. We have 8,294 undergraduate students here at University Park. That is an all-time high for our college. The university writ large is actually slightly down in students. The college has an all-time high for undergraduates at UP, an all-time high for total graduate students, 1,692 at UP, another 311 at World Campus. We have 2,337 students in our college at the Commonwealth campuses. I'll show some more details on that too. 564 faculty, tenure line, and professional track, and 394 staff and technical service employees in the college. So we are a large community. And you'll note that just the faculty and staff is just under 1,000 now. And so we should be crossing that 1,000 threshold in the next year. One thing that's very much on my mind recently is this question of community and the College of Engineering family in the aftermath of COVID. Please don't take this as me sounding like I'm against hybrid and remote work. That's not the message. But I do want to make sure that we are not just 1,000 employees working in the same college. but that we ensure that we continue to be 1,000 people community working together, that we continue to see ourselves as an engineering family, not just engineering coworkers. And so we are looking, and I started this conversation with department leaders today as well, but I want input from everybody on how we can do this better. I want to make sure that even as the nature of work evolves in the next coming years, that we maintain the feeling of community and family in the college. So we had a very successful ice cream social in August. The main feedback I had from people was we should do this more often. So we're going to do this again. We're going to have a fall festival on November 11th from noon to 2 p.m. in Foundry Park. We're going to do it. We don't know what the weather is going to be, so we're going to have hot cocoa and ice cream. We're going to have games, chance to win swag, and all sorts of other fun events. Please try to come by. And any suggestions you have for how we can continue to engage each other, not just as coworkers, but as a community and family, would be more than welcome. So I want to go back to some of these by the numbers aspects to give some history to those who are on the newer side, and really to give context to a lot of the things that we're doing. The history of our population numbers really does inform a lot of the things that we've been doing the last few years and where we're going next. So this top line shows undergraduate students at University Park for the last 10 years. This number of 2011, from 2011 of 6464 actually represents a big increase from 2008. So if there was more room on the chart, what I would really be showing is that from 2008 to 2021, we increased our number of undergraduates by 46%, right? That's a huge, huge number if you think about it. And so that's actually our increase in population for undergraduates is more students than most colleges at Penn State have in their entirety. So that has driven many things in our college. So you imagine 46% increase in our undergraduate students. We now have caught up to some extent in our grad students. If you combine University Park and World Campus, that's now up 45% in the last decade, but we have a ways to go here that I'll talk about. Our tenure line faculty, those few years before 2011 was flat. So we are now up to 343, and I'll show that in more detail what that number means. So that's a 36% growth. So we've almost caught up in number of tenure line faculty relative to the undergraduate growth that we had. Our professional track faculty, and keep in mind this is a combination of research and teaching faculty, and many of you I know do both, even though your title may be one or the other, is about 8%. And our staff and tech services has grown really in the last few years by 34%. So I'm happy that we have recognized that growth in students driving growth in faculty also means we needed to grow the staff, and we have tried to keep up in that regard. So ongoing growth cycle, right? The why behind so much of what we've done is we had this massive undergraduate growth that led to faculty growth, and that really increases the demands on staff and graduate students. So talking a bit more about the undergrads, here we break down just the last 5 years so you can see a little better. This is the total number of undergrads. So the bottom section is the Commonwealth campuses, and the top dark blue is University Park. Now, when you look at this drop from 2018 to 2019, this is not because there was a sudden drop in the number of students at Commonwealth campuses overall, or a decrease in interest in engineering at the Commonwealth campuses. This merely reflects the fact that some programs at the campuses that were part of our college moved to be part of a different college, and so they're no longer in our headcount numbers. These numbers, we can see campuses have gone down a little bit due to COVID, but I will not be surprised if that goes back up. At UP, you can see we thought we had an all-time high in 2017. We did. We leveled it back down to about 8,000 in fall of 2019. We took a COVID hit of about 140 in 2020, but this year we have roared back strong, and we have the largest number of first-year students, 2084, and the largest number of total students, 8294, in the college's history. And it's fantastic to see, this continuing interest and enthusiasm for engineering, and at the same time, of course, this does cause us some challenges that we work on. undergraduate demographics. And so Jennifer just popped a quick question that I can answer. We did see a decrease in international students, but frankly, if I remember the numbers right, it was more a question of travel and visas than it was interest. The change in interest in the student population is really a decrease in interest from China, and we think that's probably more driven by the investment that the Chinese have made in their own universities as well. So in undergraduate demographics, with this, we had made some progress in increasing the percent of female students in the college, and this is UP plus Commonwealth together. With the jump in students this fall, we've actually not seen that same progress in this recent class, and so we're going to be looking, one, at the breakdown between the campus and between the Commonwealth campuses and UP in this regard, and two, look at what we might do to respond. We can also show, here's the 15% international, to the question we just had. That's been pretty steady. It may have been 16 or 17% a year or two ago. The biggest change, though, is I think in that is not because of foreign affairs, but a couple of years ago, we switched from not being part of the Common App to being part of the Common App. As a result, we have seen a step function increase in our Black, African American, and Latinx undergrad populations. They're still too small relative to even just the Commonwealth's population. I think the Commonwealth is about 11% African American, but it is an increase, and we're anticipating that that is going to continue to grow, and with some intentionality as well. So we have a large population, and one thing that's very important to us is not just getting students into the program, but actually seeing them retained and succeed. And so we have built a lot of new programs for that. And the ones you see in light blue are things, you can't see that one, I gotta move myself again. The ones in the light blue are things that we're doing that I don't have time to talk about today. We have a big request pending to expand our undergraduate advising, because our advising team sees about 60 to 70% more students per advisor than the university average. We've made changes to entrance to major. We've made some significant changes to our scholarship application and other things we've launched. But I'm going to focus now on just these few examples that are in the dark blue. So one new program that we're, let's even remove myself. Sorry, Katina, I didn't mean to sit on top of you. We launched a new program called Engineering Connect, and the idea that the seed of the idea from here came a few years ago when I was visiting and learning about our one of our summer bridge programs. And what I learned was that the students who participated in that summer bridge often ended up with the largest or the highest six-year graduation rate of any group on engineering in the college. And so we could only handle about 80 students in that residential summer bridge. So the question became, what can we do to emulate the elements of that bridge, but do it more comprehensively across as many students in the college as possible, right? What are the things that we know we can do to help students to succeed, right? And so I asked Chris Masters to build a team of people, some people from UP, plus a balanced team from the campuses to come up with some ideas. And they proposed what became known as Engineering Connect. So it's really aimed to improve first-year persistence of engineering students at the campuses. It's intentionally connecting teaching, learning, and support professionals and services. And we were ecstatic when we were able to convince Katina Moten to move in and take on the directorship role for this program. So it's had some progress. It's just gotten started. And of course, COVID doesn't make it easy. But in spring and summer of this year, they really fine-tuned the mission, the vision, the goals, the student learning objectives, with input from faculty from multiple campuses. We've engaged a tool that was created at University of Michigan called eCoach, which is really a tailored messaging platform, and that's now been tailored for our program. And we've been in consultation with select colleges on the pieces that go into that. eCoach was implemented this semester with instructors from UP, Barron, Hazleton, and York campuses as a starting point. We're finalizing the student learning outcomes this semester, designing the program framework and the assessments as well, and recruiting campuses to participate in the pilot. We'll finalize that some campus-specific activities in the spring, and recruit Math 140 eDesign 100 instructors at additional campuses. And then next summer, we will be in full pilot launch. And so we are really excited about where this is going. You know, I think as we figure out how this will succeed, I'm not going to say if it's successful. I think it's a question of how much success do we have in version 1, and how do we then assess and improve as we move forward. But the goal here is to really transform student success at the campuses and at UP. And I think once we've done this, we're going to be a role model for many large colleges across the country. We have 2 college level research experience for undergraduate program, research experience for undergraduates programs. I know there are others led by many faculty across the college as well. The 2 college level ones are really university level ones. So we lead the multi-campus REU. This has actually been going on for 7 years now. We've engaged 19 campuses. Just shy of 500 students have participated in this. Historically, it's been funded by the college, by the provost, by the Commonwealth campus main office in Old Main, but also from the campuses themselves. 1 year, Schreier Honors College also contributed and participated with some funding. And there's also now some program endowment from the Pagoda Fund for Excellence, right? And this is our program that engages Penn State students from the campuses with University Park, and also helps University Park faculty and campus faculties make connections as well. The other program is the Drawdown REU program that we run and lead. This is now 3 years in place, 2019 in person, 2020 and 2021 virtually. This has engaged 11 Penn State colleges, campuses, and institutes. Students have come from 54 different universities across the United States. I didn't see where they were from this in 2021, but I'm pretty sure that Hawaii remains the most traveled student, unless we had one from Alaska. But it's been a really, really fantastic and robust program. We've put significant resources in. The IEE has put tremendous resources in, as have the other colleges that have participated. We've had 105 students now in 3 years. They've come from 27 different states. There was no focus in the recruiting on females or minoritized students, but in fact, it's attracted 63% women, 29% minoritized students. And we're now seeing some of those students applying to the College of Engineering graduate programs. My understanding is a couple of the minoritized students from a previous year were actually visiting on our recruitment day recently. This is also a tremendous program that's getting growing national attention. And the idea here is to operationalize the project drawdown solutions to climate change, right, which is truly an interdisciplinary endeavor, and engage students in the actual work of beginning to address climate change in a real way. We have not been able to focus in the usual way on global engineering engagement the last 2 years because of pandemic-driven travel restrictions. But I want to highlight it because it's actually an area that we are pushing to expand. We did do some virtual experiences, which were tremendous in the limited ability to do them. And I see this as being an area that we reinvigorate now as we hope to be able to return to travel. So we have expanded the focus on new faculty-led programming for students. We're really looking to increase access. We've eliminated student fees for 2022 for our coordinated programs in Peru and Italy. We will have our Clark Scholars participating in the Lima, Peru experience in Maymester next year. This is a cross-cultural engagement program that also focuses on climate change solutions and sustainable development. We are creating peer-to-peer partnership program, which is a partnership between Global Engineering Engagement, that's GEE, and our Center for Engineering Outreach and Inclusion and the Affirmative Action Office to try to facilitate integration of the international students' intercultural connections and learning into our global engagement. And we're also looking to have much more engagement with faculty and staff across UP, particularly in the college and in the campuses, and getting them to advise on policies and priorities. This year, we're looking at intercultural learning, international research collaborations, and forming a global strategic network. One of the questions that came in advance was asking about the possibility of creating a new program. The answer is talk to Patrick Tunno, and we will see what can happen. So faculty and staff. Here we're showing the more recent 5-year growth of our faculty. The bottom is professional track, and then the top is the tenure line faculty. And so you can see after a few years of the professional track sort of holding at the same number, there's been some significant growth there recently. And you see the big growth in the tenure line faculty, which is over the last 4 or 5 years, which is a continuation from a year or two before that. Let's look a little more granularly. So when I show 343 faculty, that's actually representative of 368 people. So any person who has any non-zero salary appointment in the College of Engineering or has tenure in the College of Engineering but is in an administrative role, that gives us a total of 368. So this 368 includes the provost, right? It includes Renata Engel. It includes, people who are anyone whose tenure home is here. It used to include Rob Pangborn before he retired. If you just look at FTE, right? So some people are co-hired between an engineering unit and a non-engineering unit. That brings us down to 351. And from the 351, if you take out people like me and all the associate deans, right? Or you only keep Chris Ron as 0.5 because he's split. Then you end up with what I call a no admin 343 FTE tenure line faculty. So these are those of you who are doing the teaching, driving the research agenda, and so this is really the number that I look at in terms of what we do per tenure line faculty. Now, 151 of these faculty have started since July of 2016, and the median start date of this 368 is actually July of 2014. And we're now at the point where over 50% of our tenure line faculty were hired either when I was dean or when Amr was dean. And so this is really a remarkable thing. I don't think there's any college in the United States that's hired 184 or more tenure line faculty in the last 7 years. And you can see the impact in terms of our growth and how it started slowly and then really accelerated. And this is really, one of the things that is really exciting, I think, for who we are and where we are. And don't get me wrong, the faculty that were here, longer than me or Amr are tremendous and continue to produce at extremely high levels and drive many of the things we're doing. But I think we can all agree that having so many new people coming from so many different places is giving us an opportunity to really rethink who we are and what we do. With that, our demographics has changed a lot in the last 4 years. With this roughly 30% increase in total headcount, we've seen a 70% increase in headcount for female tenure line faculty, a small increase, but a start in African American and Black faculty, a large increase in Latinx faculty. And as I look across our peers across the country, I think we actually do have one of the most diverse leadership teams of any major R1 College of Engineering in the United States, if not the most diverse, right, depending on how you do the calculation. Faculty hiring this year, we have 32 searches underway or ready to launch, if not launched already. This does include 4 department heads positions. It includes a new associate dean because Peter Butler is returning to regular faculty. It includes a new assistant dean because Tom Litzinger is going to retire. And it includes 26 what we call regular tenure line faculty. And this 26 does include 8 co-hires with either institutes or ARL. And that's a strong and growing part of our hiring plan. This is probably the last year where we'll be hiring at this scale. and this includes a couple of carryover searches from last year that didn't wrap up. Because now that our faculty hiring is almost caught up to that undergraduate growth I talked about, right? We're going to need to pivot from, a mode where most of our hiring was driven by, across all departments needing to respond to the growth, to more of a strategic faculty growth in specific areas. There are still a couple of departments where student numbers are going to drive some additional hires. But for the most part, we're looking now to, what are the strategic areas of investment? And you can see that's still very broad. So there's really no department that doesn't fit into our scheme of vision for research impact. I have told the departments to please start thinking about intra-college, interdepartmental co-hires. We've had some success with that last year. One which was premeditated, one which was opportunistic, and two that were actually opportunistic, now that I think about it. But I'd like to see us develop more and more interdepartmental co-hires within the College of Engineering. We are also going to prioritize growing, and strengthening our partnerships with the Hershey College of Medicine. We're beginning conversations with them to see what a big initiative in the next year or two might look like. And we will continue to prioritize institute co-hires and ARL co-hires. In 4+ years, I'm yet to say no to investing in any institute co-hire that came forward from either the institute or a department. And let me just say that this list of areas is not intended to be all-inclusive. We want more faculty-driven ideas and initiatives to come forward. Our research expenditures have also been exploding with our faculty growth, but if you do the math, the research expenditure growth has far outpaced our faculty growth. A 20% jump from last year is probably in part because the year before didn't grow what it would have because of COVID, but this is a pretty smooth curve if you adjust for 2020. These funds include both external funds from federal government, external from industry, where Priya's team has been putting a lot of effort, but also internal startup funds. And so we are looking at startup funds and the multiple seed grant programs that we have. And so we're looking and anticipating that a lot of these initial internal investments are then going to translate into external funding. And we've got the evidence to prove that that's the case. That's not speculative, that's based on our history. So this has been a really remarkable growth that has also put, at the same time we transitioned to SIMBA, a big workload on our staff. So really a lot of kudos to OERA for the support that they give all of our faculty, and as we continue to invest in research support. Some highlights: we have had 5 awards since October 2020 that are greater than $3 million. So I just wanted to give a shout out to these, and you can see they're in pretty broad range of areas. Vertical Lift Research Center of Excellence has been going strong since 1996. This is going to carry them to at least 2026. But a strong effort in quantum systems, hybrid electric aircraft, as Karen Tolley expands her research program. Christine Cunningham, a teaching professor, co-hire with the College of Education, looking at youth engineering solutions. And Pak-King Wong in BME, looking at 2-hour sepsis tests. And on top of that, there's just not enough time to highlight at least a dozen more grants that are over $1 million, again, just coming in the last year. We have also been driving the growth in research centers across the university. This is something that I'm very supportive of, that I encourage mid-career faculty to pursue leadership in. What you see here are a number of centers and consortium for, all the way down. Esther's fallen off my screen, but I think she's on your screen. So 7 of these that have really just come out in the last couple of years. And again, a broad range of topics showing that, the College of Engineering is really driving and leading university-wide efforts. Every one of these efforts is multi-departmental, and in almost every case, actually multiple colleges. So one new one led by Vijay Narayanan in computer science and EE is the Center for Artificial Intelligence Foundations and Engineered Systems. This is one of 3 AI centers that have been launched at Penn State. and these three are working together. Just because this one is led by engineering by VJ, it doesn't mean it's engineering only. And VJ has already 61 researchers across 24 units who are participating and engaged with him. The most recently launched center is the Center for Neurotechnology and Mental Health Research, led by Nanyan Zhang and BME. When I say recent, I mean this was approved about a week ago. There's already, on the proposal, 20 researchers in 9 units across Penn State, strong participation in HHD and College of Med. And the goal here is to have neuroengineering and neurotechnology and imaging that led under Nanying's expertise really drive the way we look at future preclinical and clinical research in mental health. And so really a tremendous opportunity to address an area that gets a lot of attention in the national media, with engineering at the helm of driving the solution. Another major effort is the Global Building Network, and we've just re-signed our partnership with the United Nations to continue this. This is led by Esther Bonio from AE and CEDTAP. There's already over 20 international partnerships developed since this started, right? And the goal here is to promote education and research around the globe in energy efficient buildings in the built environment, and really also expanding now to be not just energy efficiency, but also healthy buildings in terms of air quality and other aspects of human health. So we're really talking about high performance buildings, which is a uniform need around the globe if we're going to address our challenges. I also want to point to leadership by Rachel Brennan for the Sustainability Council for the last couple of years. She's just re-upped as leader and leader of the council. This is aligning the college with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm on top of, and integrating things like the drawdown solutions in the REU program, but also into eDesign 100, into first year seminar, into study abroad, right? So you hear the theme here, right? Looking at how we invigorate and infuse the ideas of sustainability and a healthy planet throughout our curriculum in many ways. So there's also co-curricular micro-credentialing to help meet the strategic development goals, sustainable development goals, and the National Academy of Engineering's goals, grand challenges with the certificate. And this is expanding. So we'd be more engagement with industry. We'd love to see a research experience for teachers program to match the REU program, and lots of other things going forward. Another thing going forward is that we have centers in the pipeline that, the next time we meet, I'll probably be announcing that some of these have launched. It includes Rachel's proposal for an engineering center for climate solutions, but it also includes plasma science and engineering, nanoscale imaging and biosensing, digital manufacturing, and catalysis. And again, you can see the message here in this breadth and scope of expertise in research. And the question I put to all of you is, what's the next big thing? What's the center that isn't on this list where we should be expanding our national and international leadership? Bring your ideas forward, and we will see how we can move forward with strategic investments. I don't want to downplay the importance of our staff. It would be impossible to overstate the importance of our staff. Our staff make everything happen. We have seen growth in our staff, primarily not in the technical service staff, but in the rest of our staff. One area of many that we have been investing more staff in is in research support, pre-award and post-award. I was surprised recently, I heard of one faculty member questioning the investment in more department level support for research. I'm fairly certain that that's not the majority view of the faculty. And it's hard to imagine that more support for our faculty in the research space is not going to be seen as critical. Not just because of SIMBA, but because of the significant growth in our research portfolio. We are also working with the Senior Vice President for Research's office to help make the office of the research office and support office at main campus to be more efficient. We know there have been issues at times but we are fully engaged in trying to help streamline processes and make sure that things get done smartly and quickly. And I know there's some examples of people thinking, well, that hasn't been my experience, but that, as we become aware of them, we do everything we can to try to work with them and make things work more smoothly. So let's pivot now to the grad students. So many of you, and particularly department heads, but hopefully many of you across the college have been hearing me talk about growing the graduate programs. Let me say why. We have significantly expanded our faculty hiring. We have also seen research engine grow. This drives the need for more and more grad student support. They are foundational to our success in the undergraduate programs. We are, in my view, woefully short of TAs for our undergraduate classes. We have research programs that need grad students, and research contracts come in throughout the year. And so we need to have grad students available for faculty when new research programs get launched. We have a goal of 4 undergraduates per graduate student at University Park. And we have a goal of 8 graduate students per tenure line faculty. And in that case, the graduate students include World Campus. I think those are the numbers that we need to get to really fully support our undergraduate and our research endeavors. We need a year-round graduate recruitment philosophy. We are building out a year-round graduate recruiting calendar, and we have hired a new college-level recruiting coordinator, Stephanie Kaufman, who reports to George Lacerte in the research office. And the idea here is not for the college to take over grad recruiting. That would be a failure. Graduate recruiting, we know, is very department and program specific. But to give support and integration and cohesion, stronger support from our marketing communications team, and messaging and everything that we can do at the college level to help support growing the graduate programs. We're also looking forward to more new program offerings. We have a large request pending with the university for long-term support to grow our TAs. That's in discussion. And in the last couple of years, we've launched a new approach and system to support first-year graduate students as TAs with TA assignments that may not be in their home department, but where the TA demands are the highest, because we have departments that are supporting large undergraduate courses that they could never support with their own graduate programs alone. So here's the enrollment growth that we've seen. It's actually been pretty impressive. The bottom is the master's programs in residence at UP. The blue is World Campus. And then the top group is the PhD programs. And so you can see that even with COVID, and even with the fact that many of our students are international, we actually managed to grow by 52 students in 2020. This would have been a bigger growth if it wasn't for COVID. We saw a smaller, a decrease in the ratio of acceptances to appearances, but we seem to have picked that right back up this year. No surprise, it was the residential masters that took the biggest hit from COVID. The World Campus actually grew and continues to grow, and we're really excited about this growth in the PhD program as well. But we have a ways to go. And when you look at last year's example of data, the tall black curves are the number of applications. The mid-size are the offers we made, and the small ones then are the acceptances. And if you look, the ratio of acceptances to offers doesn't really vary that much year to year. 2020, the yield was smaller because of COVID, but in general, that's been a pretty solid ratio. You can see we've kind of been up and down on the master's offers for different reasons, but that jumped back up last year as we've addressed some problems. And the PhD program, you can see, an increase in the offers, and then a corresponding increase in the number of students. What you don't see is an increase in the application pool. And so in my view, where we really need to focus a lot of our attention right now is how do we expand our reach and get more students to be aware of and interested in joining our programs, drive the application pools up so that we can continue to grow the programs overall. And there's a number of things that we can do differently going forward. We're encouraging departments to continue to not require or look at the GREs for a whole bunch of reasons. We're looking at how we can communicate out our programs, writ large to students. Some departments have started some programs to try to recruit their best undergraduate students to stay for grad school here, and that's been some success seen there. So we're looking at really what can we do to strengthen that applicant pool so we can really make an impact on our total numbers. The demographics, so we're about 24% female. I think that number has been climbing. In terms of Black, African American, and Latinx, our grad population is really small, and there's a lot of work to be done there. We have some new programs to address it, but we need an all-hands approach to this. We need people to think about how to build the pool. We also need people to think, in terms of how candidates get evaluated and looked at and admitted. Growing the TA population, I think, can also help quite a bit because it can give us more resources to make more first-year offers with more long-term commitment. And you can see we're still about 61% international in our graduate program, despite the headwinds of the last 2 years against international students. So one new program is Advancing Master's Program Scholars, Strengthening Pathways for the Domestic Graduate Engineering Workforce and Future Professoriate. This is aimed at increasing access to master's programs. Julio Urbina is the PI, with co-PIs Catherine Bernier, Reggie Hamilton, Tanya Peoples, and Kathy Cohen playing an important evaluation role. This is an NSF STEM program, and it's looking at an engagement program or process that develops faculty mentors with the student community. So we're excited about this opportunity, and we look for impact here amongst other things that we're doing. We have grown our number of graduate programs. I won't go through this line by line, but these are all launched in the last 5 years. Some are non-thesis options. Some are brand new unique degrees like the MEng in Engineering Law and Policy, which is just launching, the MEng in Engineering Leadership Innovation Management. And then we're also seeing more of our residential programs being launched as World Campus programs. And we'd like to see more and more of that going forward. We think there's real opportunity to expand the World Campus offerings that we have. And most recently, we have an MOU agreement with World Campus for a Doctor of Engineering. A lot of years work by Sven Belen to really move that forward, working with others to make that happen. That's now at Grad Council, so we're really hoping to move this forward soon. When I talk to industry leaders about this program, they really do light up with excitement for the opportunities that this is going to afford some of their workforce. So that's our numbers, but let's also talk about who we are in our culture. And I'm going to start with engineering equity because we've been talking a lot about it. We're working hard on it. We need to continue to do so. And this is a cultural transformation for our discipline, not just our college. In a backdrop of a nation that at times argues whether Black Lives Matter, we are trying to concentrate our efforts on the fact that Black minds matter, but also Latinx minds matter, LGBTQ minds matter, first-year college students' minds matter. Really, the idea of the engineering equity at its core is aimed at all identities, historically majority, and the large number of what I call historically targeted identities, people who by virtue of their identity have been held back in many different ways or had obstacles put up against their progress by society, not necessarily by the university, but just the way our society has operated for decades in terms of investments in schools, investments in communities, et cetera. There's, the examples are long. We want to make sure that we understand that our faculty, staff, grad students, undergrad students, postdocs, that this is a mutually dependent system, and that we are aiming at using known social science to address the societal problem of full inclusion and equitable access for everyone. Our goal is to make sure that everybody who joins our community gets the type of support they need to go from where they are today when they join us to having success down the road. We know that sustainable cultural change requires engaged faculty and staff and students, and we are looking to address, culture and demographics, together. We can't just focus on increasing numbers. We can't just focus on the local culture. We have to do things together. This is a systems problem, and we are engineers that deal with systems all the time. And we're beginning by developing, but we are working on an equity action plan that's holistic, while at the same time moving things forward that are already having impact. So this is a snapshot of a piece of the equity action plan, which is being developed. And the real key point here is that there are jobs for executives, leadership to do. There are things for the faculty to do. There are things for postdocs, things for staff, things for grad students, things for undergraduates, things that we can do as a community to support each other, to advance our ability to support each other and move equity forward. So what's been done so far? Quite a bit. We have, trying to move myself, there we go. We have the Equity, Excellence, and Impact Faculty Leadership Group convened in 2021 in spring, and they're continuing to work together. We've had faculty conversations around equity. The Student Diversity Roundtable Group has hosted events. We have a Staff Equity Council and Inclusion Committee. Student support directors are providing input on equity actions. And we've now identified 4 overarching equity goals, which have been mapped into over 200 action projects under a 5-year timeline. And this is a big, this EAP, the Equity Action Plan, is a big effort. Where do we stand? So we're aligning, and when I say we, I mean this effort is led by Tanya Peoples and Shelley Stoffels, and hats off to the fantastic effort they've done leading this and engaging stakeholders across the college. We need to align and distribute the action projects and map it to our strategic plan. We need to form leadership and stakeholder teams around each objective and each project. We need to make sure we have continuous cycles of improvement. And there are challenges, right? This is a big comprehensive effort and it's actionable. And action means we need accountability. So we need to identify who's going to be accountable for what actions. And frankly, we need broad buy-in from everyone. That includes all faculty, staff, students, whether from an historically targeted identity or not. Everyone has a role here. And the challenge is figuring out how you create metrics related to culture so that we can really do an assessment. Everyone, we say here, everyone is invited to help. And frankly, everyone's help is needed. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot happening. There's a lot to do. Some people can, have time and bandwidth and passion to do a lot, but we need everyone to contribute in some way. We have had a recent success I want to point to in a faculty search that we launched last year. We weren't seeing the types of applicant pool that we wanted, so we did a college-wide search with departmental search committee representation to build a diverse pool. The departments interviewed 5 to 6 candidates, and we had 2 hires that are both joining us in January through the search. Chris Dancy is joining us. He's currently tenured associate at Bucknell. He'll be joining IME in computer science as a co-hire. And Donald Diegbe, with apologies for if I mispronounce, is currently a postdoc with Steve Schiff, and he'll be joining EE in January as well. We're truly excited to have them joining us. And this success has enabled us to convince the provost to let us resource another search that's just launching this month. Hopefully to hire at least 2 more faculty through this process, if not more. And we're looking to reinvigorate this entire process going forward. There is lots of other progress I could point to. The Clark Scholars Program now has 2 classes of undergraduates as it builds up to 4 steady state. I mentioned the NSF STEM program. We're launching the Pathway to Professoriate postdoc program. This is co-led by George and Tanya. And this is another example where the College of Engineering is driving the ship, but most of the other colleges at UP are joined in. The only ones that aren't joining are the disciplines that don't really use postdocs. And we're looking to seek, we will be asking the provost to help resource this as well. And we're also, co-leading with a number of the Big 10++ deans to advance equity. We drafted a letter to ABET, encouraging ABET to put equity education into the engineering curriculum. You can see it, the letter on the ABET website. And we are leading, Tom Litzinger and Tanya are leading a workshop that will be a national workshop this spring looking at engineering equity curricula and how to do it, right? If we're going to put equity into the engineering curricula, what does that look like? This will be, like I said, a national effort, but we are leading and driving that ship. The other major cultural transformation going on is our promotion and tenure criteria. And this has been a big effort that Anthony has been leading. The main push, the main idea here is that if we want to make sustainable changes in academic culture, promotion and tenure is the pathway. We haven't seen changes to our criteria in well over 20 years, and so it's timely. But it's also timely because of the big transformation in our faculty as well, and all the new hires that we've had in the last 6-7 years. So my insistence was that we have separate sections for expectations and evidence or assessment. I say assessment and not measurement. I think it's imperative that we move away from a numbers game. I don't want faculty mindset to be a certain number of papers means promotion or a certain number of dollars means promotion. I want a holistic approach to assessment. I want to look at the impact our faculty are having across the board. This process has to be consistent with our equity action plan. We need to recognize bias in many modes of assessment and try to mitigate and avoid them. We also want to look at impact on equity that our faculty have as part of their overall impact on the college. Both of these are important pieces. And we also want to make sure that we are talking not only about the expectations, promotion and tenure from assistant to associate, but also the expectations and evidence for promotion from associate to full. There we go. So how are we doing this? We've been trying to maximize stakeholder engagement. So we had early discussions in a working draft shared with EFC, lots of discussions with faculty across the college. We've asked for input from everyone, all tenure track faculty. We've had over 15% participation. We did consult with the Vice Provost for Educational Equity and the Provost's office. And as many of you know, we did an open source approach through Teams so that all faculty member could actually get in there and contribute to the editing and writing. We did that, but we did it by separating groups of deans, of department heads, of separating faculty by rank, so that people could do some editing and brainstorming in a feeling of comfort and safety. You could edit the draft, you could discuss via Teams. We had small group, focus group discussions. And we've done 2 cycles. And the reason we did 2 was the feedback that I got in late spring 2021 was some faculty feeling that we were doing promotion tenure criteria rewrite without them having a chance to have input. We recognize that even though we did open source, that it was a rather crazy time. So we reached out, asked people when the best time to do it was. Some said late summer, some said fall. So we reopened that process, giving as many faculty a chance to comment as possible. What's been done, you can see some of these comments. I think there's been really good engagement with those who participated. And where does it stand? So right now, I think we're close to a final draft. It'll then come to me for review. I haven't seen the most recent one. It'll then be discussed at a college-wide faculty forum. It'll then go to EFC for approval, and then it will go to the Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs. And then lastly, it will be launched. So we are excited to see this wrapping up and ready to go forward. So I want to say a few other words about other activities in the college. This one slide captures a lot of things that are going on in terms of operational excellence, looking at efficiencies, looking at effectiveness. I've commented that we're looking to grow advising, that we're looking to continue to grow research administration. Our data analysis and assessment team is small but profoundly good, and we are looking to do more and more data-driven analysis every day with everything we do. With transitions in associate and assistant deans, I mentioned the 2 searches. The other piece of news is that in December of 2022, Anthony is going to retire. So we're looking to make sure that we have the roles and structure to best support the departments and faculty as we can. We are in the midst of a transformation of our communications and marketing team, looking at ways to increase their impact without growing the team. It's grown a few years ago, and I think it's now at a good steady state, or is approaching a good steady state size as they fill in some positions. Corporate industry relations has been completely restructured, and we're starting to see the benefits of that in a real way. Looking to have more integration of the conversations with industry around research, around career services and philanthropy. And I think we're looking to really go big on some emerging relationships. A lot of the time and effort that Priya and others have put in the last couple of years are going to come to fruition in the very near term, on top of the things that that they've already accomplished for many of our faculty. And then we've talked about the grad student recruiting. We made a major transformation to scholarship awarding, and that's going to continue. Our finance and administration team has new leadership and a new financial officer. Zach Steinley's joined us. They are fully embedded with Simba, and we are now looking to take advantage of the new university process for 5-year budget planning and integrating our budget planning with our space optimization, space utilization, so that we really have a coordinated effort in everything that we do. Fundraising is also, of course, important. We get funds from the university. We are tuition driven. We get funds from research sponsors, of course, but the more that we can also get from fundraising, from philanthropy, is helpful. If you want to see, here we show a summary of some of the categories of gift giving. So people don't just typically give us money and say spend it on whatever. The gifts are usually targeted for certain things. In this campaign, we have raised over $200 million to date. We're in the last year. We have a little bit to go, but I think we're going to surpass it. But for sort of academic divisions, program support, we've gotten almost $40 million. That includes the naming of New Key, but there's a lot of things in there. Over $30 million that has gone to either faculty resources, and these are endowments, so you can't spend the whole $30 million at once. Endowments pay out about 5% a year. So faculty resources in terms of chairs, early career professorships, but also research support. But $71 million in scholarships for undergraduates and graduate fellowships. I think it's about 50 million scholarships, 20 million grad fellowships, plus or minus. And then about 58 million in facilities and equipment. And I will say that, for the 2 new buildings that I'm going to talk about, we are expected to raise about $30 million of the total price tag for those buildings. And frankly, the better we do in that regard, the more likely we'll see more buildings in the near term. So we're working feverishly hard on fundraising for buildings and infrastructure. And while the university's campaign formally ends June 30th, we will be continuing on robustly, particularly because of our infrastructure needs after that date. I know everybody wants to know more about master plan implementation. For those who are newer, a little background. I came in fall of 2017. I was asked to provide information for the programming for 1 new building. I responded by asking, what are we getting after that first new building? And I was told, no, we just want programming information for 1 building. There's nothing else planned after that. We went back and forth for about a month or 2 with that conversation, to the point where we ended up meeting with the provost, and he agreed that we needed a full college-wide master plan that would increase the quantity of our space, improve the quality of our space, and help us redistribute and optimize the use of the space. At the time, we had about 714,000 assigned square feet in the college. I argued we needed 1 million. And the external architect firm, Payette, they did their own calculation and said we need about 1 million. Right now, we're at about 810,000 square feet. So we've actually managed to do some growth in the meantime. And so the master plan puts forward a 10+ year vision, more than 2 5-year budget cycles, for the construction of 3 buildings on West Campus, the destruction of Hammond and the units, a complete renovation of Sackett, 2 new buildings here on Central Campus, kind of where Hammond and the units are, and now also the removal of what we call the bunker off of EES on West Campus. In parallel with that, before the master plan was finished, we actually got the green light for 2 new buildings. Those are both under construction at West Campus right now. And what you see here is what West Campus will look like sort of if you're flying over Westgate in spring of 2014. The buildings will be done in December of 2014, but in December you won't see all this green space. So this is what it'll look like in the spring. This is what we call West 2. This is behind it is the new parking deck that's open. West 2 will have a really nice big high bay to support research. And then the rest of the building is committed to hands-on undergraduate education, cornerstone to capstone for all of our students, including the housing for CEDTAP, Learning Factory, and the FAME Lab. West 1 will be the largest academic building at Penn State and University Park. It will house aerospace engineering, the acoustics program, architecture engineering, civil environmental engineering. It's going to have a large number of general purpose classrooms. It's going to have a lot of the student support offices that are currently in Hammond and the Dean's Suite. It's going to have food service. It's going to have an indoor flight facility. If you go there now, it's a big ditch in the ground, but man, it is a big ditch. And you can actually watch real time the progress on this construction through live cams. Here's just another view of the face of West 2. We call this engineering on display because you'll be able to see the 24/7 buzz of activity. Here's another angled view of West 1, coming from Westgate to the right. Where does this all stand? So West 2, which is this little orange box right here, will be completed next October, so only a year away. It'll take about 5-6 months to move in. So teaching will begin in earnest in fall of 2023. Here's nominally the location of West 1. It's changed in its physical shape, but this is the master plan image. Like I said, that'll be completed in November, December 2023. It's going to take at least 6 months or longer to move in. And so it'll be sort of open for business in fall of 2024. Here you see Sackett, and in the first phase, we will have the end pieces disappear that are as they're currently seen. The building will be gutted. There will be a major renovation of the main section. We expect one new wing to be built in the first phase. And then if we get funding to move into phase 2, then you'll get the second wing on Sackett, and those wings will be built out. The first phase does include the destruction of Hammond and the units. The timeline for these items is not certain, even though they're in the current plan. The current capital construction plan, right, which is West 1, West 2, Sackett renovation, and the demolition of Hammond and the units, was predicated on 2% increases in tuition every year. We've only had a 2% increase in one of the 4 years so far, so the timeline is slipping back. That slippage in the timeline is also impacting the next capital construction plan and the scale of it. The fact that we don't know who the next president of Penn State is probably also feeding into delays in planning the next capital construction plan. But we are anticipating, in the next capital plan or beyond, another building on West Campus we call West 3, and then 2 new buildings on Core Campus, Core 1 and Core 2, to build out a nice engineering quad here on the core campus. And there is recognition and understanding and enthusiasm for the need to really build this space out as soon as possible. We've also been looking at what we can do to improve our infrastructure real time without waiting for new buildings. So here you see 4 major projects. 3 are completed. The Reber Basement Instructional Lab is a beautiful educational space now. The main entrance to Leonard has now been converted to an e-commons, which is really giving a lot of flexible study space for students. And the main floor of Hallowell has been completely transformed into the Nuclear Innovation Commons. The last project is the Brazil Reactor Beam Lab expansion. That's going to add a major new small angle neutron scattering facility to the reactor, and also give us increased office and student space above that on the upper level to support growth in faculty and students and staff. This one is underway. We'll have formal groundbreaking tomorrow, and it'll be done next year. We are also looking at a deep dive into the assessment and strategy for using our facilities. We're assessing the current space needs for each department. We've also asked departments with ongoing faculty searches to give us some sense of what the need will be next year to address those hires. But we are also looking at a comprehensive data-driven analysis of current space utilization to see how we can better optimize the use of the space that we have. Frankly, if we don't do this, we won't get more space. If we can't demonstrate continuous improvement of the utilization of space we have, driven by numbers, the audience for new space and new spaces in existing buildings in State College, as well as new buildings, will be seriously hindered. We're also looking at how future of hybrid work and remote work can make us better utilize office space because the nature of work is changing. So we're hard at work on launching this process. We really want to see where we may have like interests and research infrastructure needs across departments, and focus on building research lab capabilities that can support multiple faculty, that are easier for the college to support in terms of maintenance and technician support, and meeting the needs of more faculty in a more integrated way. So with that, let me just wrap up by thanking you for attending. I believe that the state of this college is very strong. We have strong university commitments. The Board of Trustees recognizes our critical role, and we really remain the engine for Penn State University, driving many Penn State initiatives, partnering on many others. Our faculty are amazing. Student interest in engineering is just continuing to grow across the nation and in Pennsylvania. Our staff are empowering everyone to succeed, and they are truly the backbone of this college. Our alums are passionate, committed to helping in every way, and that passion from them is simply growing every day. I will not sit here and tell you that we don't have challenges. We have many challenges. Some of the challenges are, a impact of our success. Other challenges are areas where we just have not had investment from the college or from the university, or because of changes in university processes and procedures. We know these challenges are there. Keep bringing them forward. I don't believe there's a single challenge that we are not prepared to meet. We in the college, in the Dean Suite, are committed to supporting the faculty and staff and students every way we can. Dean's roles, department head roles are service positions, and we are looking for how we can support the faculty and staff and students to thrive every day. So with that, I thank you for staying a little bit past 12. I know there was a lot in that I presented. I know there's a lot that I wished I could have presented but didn't have time for. Please do submit questions through the portal. We're going to capture all of them, and I will, me and the other deans will get to the task of getting answers out in a college-wide email as soon as we can. So again, tech support team, thank you so much for everything to make this go smoothly. I appreciate everyone joining, and I look forward to hopefully seeing everybody face to face on November 11th. Let's try to overwhelm Foundry Park and see each other again. I encourage you to try to stay connected in any way that you can. Help your units, help everyone maintain this wonderful community that we have. Thank you again, and have a great day.